My name is Gia Stark. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional clinical counselor. I am currently in private practice. I graduated from CIIS in December 2016 from community mental health. And I have this beautiful mug that helps me remember my cohort and my time there. And on the other side, it's Jacques Lacan in a lotus pose in front of the Golden Gate Bridge, which I think really sums up our time with Stephen Tierney and Fernando Castellon. Yes, so I am in private practice in a role that I never imagined myself being in. I never thought that I would be in private practice, but it's starting to make a lot more sense in being able to work for myself and work with the types of populations and clients that I'm most drawn to, and also to be able to determine what my work actually looks like in terms of frequency and what I want to charge and how I want to work. One of the positions that I held is field placement manager at CIIS. That was right after I graduated, as I was still gaining clinical hours. And in terms of more clinical positions where I was gaining hours, I was a associate at San Francisco public school, working with students aged pre-K through 8th grade for about a year. I also got a fellowship at Access Institute where I was working in the Hayes Valley Clinic and doing intakes with all of the folks who are trying to access services there. I worked with a free clinic in the Presidio called Greenlight Clinic, who provides free mental health services to adolescents and young adults. And my final position was with the Center for Mindful Psychotherapy, which allowed me to start my private practice and see if it was actually possible for me before launching out on my own. Yeah, that's a big question. It took me a little bit longer than I was anticipating from graduation until licensure. I did take a year off from any clinical work while I was working at CIIS and after working with the students in San Francisco Public School. So I became fully licensed this February with both licenses. So it'd be 2021, but I got my MFT license in 2020. So about 4 years. And I also think the pandemic had something to do with the timing of all of that too, because it became a little bit tricky still communicating with the BBS, getting all of my paperwork in order, trying to get a hold of supervisors or different clinics that I had worked in. So a little bit longer, but just under probably the 6 years. CIS helped me in numerous ways, which are still being revealed to me, even as I'm fully licensed and in my own practice. I think a really big thing that I still carry with me is how much the people at CIIS, and that includes people in my cohort who are now my colleagues and mentors, professors, supervisors along the way, really believed in me, which was so hard for me to believe in myself as I was starting at CIIS. And that was monumental for me to keep going and to launch myself into a profession that is so exciting, but can be so extremely terrifying too. And I feel that CIS gave me such a great foundation, not only in terms of theory, but also in terms of practice and being able to put my own political beliefs and values and how I want to show up in the world to be able to figure out how to integrate that into how I work. One big thing that's been challenging for me is figuring out how to break into the mental health profession and how to break into private practice, particularly because there's something that feels quite elitist about this profession, and then particularly in private practice as well. And it's been challenging to find my own path and my own way in private practice and also within this field, because there is something that's quite exclusionary about mental health and about being in private practice, and also being aware that I have a fair amount of privilege and a fair amount of access, and I'm still having issues showing up in this field and in ways being um, valued for the perspective that I'm bringing and taken seriously for the way that I am thinking about the work. Um, More precisely, I find it extremely challenging working in a system that wants to be of service to individuals, wants to meet individuals where they're at, and wants to provide some sort of healing and liberation. But yet we're in a field that's so closely tied to the state and to oppressive powers. And I'm thinking specifically about if one of our clients is talking about self-harm or about suicide, that we're trained, you call the police, you call 911, you get this person hospitalized. And yes, we need to make sure that our clients and the people that we're working with are not in danger. But bringing in an oppressive system can put some of the people that we're working with in more danger. So, how to navigate these very treacherous paths that I keep finding myself in this field. And it's quite challenging. And I think it's also challenging finding other clinicians who want to think about this and talk about this, because it's something in our field that is a given. You don't talk about it. There's no real thought behind it. This is what happens, and here's what you're supposed to do. I'm starting to find more like-minded folks out there and more community. I know that there's folks out there who have similar thinking and um, even more in-depth thinking than I've even been able to access within myself. Um, I find that there's a lot of desire to start questioning our work and our positionality, and I think that's something that's really special about CIS and the folks who are drawn to going to school there and to working there. Is there is that openness and that curiosity about larger systems that we're working under, as well as what it looks like to include abolition, not only thinking and practices, into the mental health field. The advice that I would give to CIS graduates or soon to be graduates is this is a very evocative time to be in mental health and to be in the mental health field. And taking care of you is going to be of utmost importance, but also figuring out how to take care of you in a soulful way while still being able to figure out how to pay your bills. That's something that I'm still trying to figure out, is what it means to take care of myself and also maintain a life in the Bay Area, which is just so expensive. And I don't think that's something we really get to talk much about, is how do we take care of ourselves and still be able to pay our bills and have a life as well. But it's going to be a long and exciting journey ahead of you. Keep in contact with folks who challenge your thinking and folks who you feel really understood by, and keep finding people who will nourish you on an emotional and a psychological level as you go through this. Because this is hard work and we need each other to keep going through this.